I'm not seeing opposition and ruling party take seriously the issue of electoral reform, not just about changing laws, changing behavior, getting the people to rise up, mobilizing a change of behavior. I mean, allegations are getting on both sides, whether it's ruling party, opposition party.
Some school of thought believe that, look, the people are even too impoverished to,
That's the point. So the people are, in fact, they read in this election buying of votes, and it's so transparent that it's now, you look back, it said, basically, Nigeria doesn't have democracy, so to say. I mean, Vendem, the leading authority in democracy assessment and rating, say Nigeria is now electoral autocracy. So you hold election, but that election lacks all the fundamentals of democratic election. And the second thing that we are seeing is also that it looks like perhaps the opposition party needs to do more work, especially the coalition, the ADC, beyond social media. They also need to, if there's a structure of criminality, as they allege, deal with it. I mean, why can't we really have them recontest? Since 2023, I've not seen any serious voice of either Atiku or B or Eruf or anybody actually mobilizing for electoral reform. That's the missing link. And I'm saying it. Abuja School has done this as press conference every time. We say electoral reform is critical for three things. One, this is a polarized country. This is a country that's unstable in many ways. So election, even if democracy does not translate to development directly, it gives legitimacy. It creates a sense of legitimacy of change of government. What I'm also afraid that 2027, with what happened today, the opposition will be less inclined to civil approach to power and more inclined to build up some kind of military support, violence. And so looking at I'll predict three things that, except things change drastically, 2027 election is going to be as flawed as 2023, 2027. Two, we're going to see more militarization. People are going to say, okay, fait accompli. Governors will win their base, okay? They're going to buy the whole votes, they're going to mobilize. INEC will, as usual, play dead brain or complicit. What do? We have to fight at the pro. So we might be going into more violence as we go into this election, and the outcome will be one that will be able to mobilize the country. The level of development we need in this country requires elections that are very credible, so that once candidates emerge, we all rally around. Because with the way we're going, in 100 years, we're not going to get to what Korea, China, East Asians did in, let's say, a couple of decades. We can never get there. The politics is terrible, and it destroys governance. So for me, this election shows clear that the ruling parties still have the edge because they control, ATC will say, because they control the machinery of power. They control the institutions that determine outcome. They have access to funds. Again, subtext here. We're going to be seeing a lot of money stolen and stowed away for fighting funds across the country. So
that's during 2020.
Exactly. So if the answer is buying votes, then there will be a real open market for votes.
But when you look at, the results from the 12 states, you find that the contest is still between APC and PDP.
Interesting.
And you will be wondering, then where is the ADC, the coalition with all, the braggadocio that they are going to take over power in 2027?
Very good observation. And the answer is likely to be this. Because it is a fight between structures. So if you look at, take for example, a state like Adamawa, APC is the governor, okay? Even though you have Atiku Abubakar and a couple of strong guys massing on ADC, they have no control of this machinery. It's a fight over machinery. So the APC has a machinery, PDP has a machinery. Even some states where PDP is like a carcass, if they are governors, so look at the states PDP are doing.
So some of the key players, some of the key players in ADC moved from PDP, but from what's the other names of these Labour Party and the rest,
No, so two things. One is that the fact that if you look at some of the states, either PDP state like Taraba, like Adamawa.
But Taraba lost. In Taraba, PDP lost.
But PDP is the nest.
Yeah.
What I'm saying, they're still doing well because they have the structure to fight election. In most of these states you're talking about, the only exception to this rule might be states like Kaduna, where PDP is not in power, APC in power, APC won, and PDP did far better. I'm surprised with the ADC result in Kaduna, about 422 votes in one of the elections, and APC had about less than 11,000, PDP 5,000 or 6,000. So two things are happening. One is that if it's about buying the votes, then rhetoric will not buy votes. Social media posts will not buy votes. If it's about people voting willingly, then government in power that has not delivered would lose. The key thing about elections is this: if they are competitive and free and fair, the chances of incumbents winning will depend on whether they are performed.
So, but with the wins that we've seen, APC making some kind of clean sweep, it shows that the government in power is doing well.
The big assumption is if the elections were free and fair, that's the point. So, assuming allegations on both sides, assuming that the elections are not free and fair, it doesn't tell. That's the point with elections in Nigeria. Elections are a measure of popularity, but the big caveat is that those elections, people actually vote. Just like when you do a poll, right? Sometimes they say samplers conceal their intention. So if it's a race-sensitive, question, will you vote for a black guy? They say, oh, we'll vote, but they may not vote. But in real other issues, the polls will be the same as the outcome of election. Look at elections in developed countries like the US, for example. You can actually predict with some margin of error.
Why is it difficult to predict?
Because one is that we don't have agency. People are not voting. So if I'm not happy with you, chances that I won't vote for a party. But in Nigeria, if I'm not happy with you and they pay me money, and I don't even give a damn, and I'm a patron, I have a principal who is with you, we just go and vote. Most of these voters are captive voters. That's number one. They don't even know what the issues are, and they don't care. Two is that oftentimes the elections are also rigged. Not any of the parties. Maybe APC complained in Kano. Is that not so? The ruling party. They said the results
were announced away from where.
So this issue has to be seen. Look at the danger. The danger is that people are more invested in winning an election in Nigeria rather than the free and fair. And the problem with this process is that by the time people win the election, three things happen. One is that it's difficult to create a consensus around. We have endless campaign. That's why we just finished 2023. Immediately people are angry. They are digging into how to take people out of power. But where elections are free and fair, people allow incumbents the liberty to govern for some time because they understand that the people actually voted. And that's why you hear people like Trump or presidents all over the world says, I have a mandate, allow me to govern. So that's number two problem is that we are criminalizing the election more and more. People go back and say we're cheated. ADC has said this doesn't reflect what we are. We are cheated.
Their strength.
So they go back and say what's missing? Not campaign, not rhetoric. Maybe we didn't amass so much money to buy votes. Maybe we didn't have 5 people in the polling unit. Why would people say defend their votes? You don't defend the vote in a democracy. Elections defend themselves. The umpire defends the vote. So if we're going to hire 50 thugs per unit, polling unit, to defend our votes, then you are militarizing and creating violent elections. Because elections are supposed to be very civil and civic. You vote to get away. The results are almost accurate. Nobody needs to invest in building a defense force. So my fear is not about who wins, who loses. I mean, people are entitled to rejoice, we defeated PDP or a Labour Party. The key issue for people like us and our school is to say, what does this mean for long-term development of this country? Can we build a politics that build on consensus where people first acknowledge that the people in power actually won? They depend on the people, and they work two ways. Those people who are in power will now feel that the people get the money. If you buy your way to power, if you break skulls and win power, you're not going to be thinking about those poor women and youths who invested their confidence in you. Say, oh, we want Chris to be our governor. So you go back and say, I can't disappoint these people who went out of the rain. But if you bought this election or you won it through all forms of criminality, you're not going, that's a long-term effect. You will not be able to say, the democracy finally is defined as responsiveness to citizens. The key that leads to responsiveness is the electoral system. Okay, next time we wait for you. You failed, we vote you out. So the person who is voted in knows that he has a day of judgment with the masses. And therefore he has to do the best he can. We're getting to a point where our elections signal nothing anymore.
So Nigeria's electoral system is not developing, it's retrogressing?
That's what the latest reports, it will move from hybrid, which means we are democratic but we have some authoritarian norms, to now electoral autocracy. And the finest bus stop is full autocracy. So they are saying, yes, you have elections, but those elections are thoroughly bereft of democratic content, that they are actually autocracy. Elections are strategies to get people to power who does no incentive structure to respond to the people because they're not elected. At a point, if we don't cure this problem, and that's what I want to see. I want to see out of this election, both Atiku Abubakar, P2B, Kwankwanzo, everybody, the ruling party, Tinubu himself, come and say there's an urgency to follow through ways back again and get an electoral system. It doesn't matter who wins, by the way. In the long term, what accounts for development is strategic national consensus that can, over various tenure, for 20 years, consistent focus on development. You can't get there if you have this kind of, atrocious elections where people are bickering. After every election, we are back to warfare, and then we go to war, we come back to war.
To square one. Absolutely. All the time, right? Thank you so very much, Dr. Sam Amadi, Arise analyst, for coming to shed light